Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're owning assets, which is like Robert Kiyosaki always says. I mean, poor people work for money, rich people make money work for them.
Exactly.
And nobody likes to hear that. But that step begins with asset ownership. Yeah. Because if you work for money, it means you don't have an asset. You wait for that paycheck every month. It comes in. You try to pay all your bills quickly. You barely have enough, and then you wait for the next paycheck. It's actually like a bit like a drug. Whereas if you're proactive, you own an asset, then that will start paying you money, and that goes into that whole column of liability. And that's why I love DeFi. I mean, my daughter Gabby is 17, and she owns assets. You know, I'm sure punk ass Alex at 17, you didn't own an asset. Maybe you owned your bicycle, right? Maybe, and I owned some, but you and I would have never owned an asset unless we saved up for a 1-bedroom studio apartment that we'd spent all our money on to buy. That would have been maybe our first asset. Maybe we would have seen a yield on it. We would have been in our 30s. Maybe we would have bought more real estate. Maybe we would have owned a company, but we would have never had a concept. We would have been on that kind of that poverty cycle. Now, like I said, anybody can get in yield right now. I mean, my daughter has stablecoin. She's going to now get it in Terra, I hope. And then you can just even learn, right? You can start to appreciate asset ownership, you know.
I agree 100%. That's why getting family in is really, really important. Just one thing, if you don't mind me sharing, Brian, is for those who are using MetaMask, please do share your private keys with someone you love in case something happens further down the line. If I can just give a shout out to two of my friends who passed recently, Phil Chang and also Ichike, Richard Kent, two close friends. One had planned everything for the wealth to go on to his family. The other one, not so well. So big up to them. I love them to death. But yeah, always make sure that the private keys are also have some backup plan in case you're getting into this space and something unfortunate happens. It's always good so that the family doesn't have any issues.
Yeah, I'm sorry about your losses, man. You know, I always say when you lose someone, the only gift they give to you is to, you know, appreciate them and appreciate your life, you know. But these are really good points. I mean, MetaMask wallet's great. It's great to have DeFi and non-KYC. But the problem is that, like you said, if you haven't done proper estate planning or shared someone on those keys, it's going to be very hard for anybody to find those assets, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So keep that in mind.
Sorry, just a safety measure.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. And you need, I'd say maybe the last thing to always remember with a MetaMask wallet or any of that. I mean, the one thing about DeFi is you have to take ownership of your financial decisions. And, you know, we always heard not your key, not your coin. You know, when you have that MetaMask wallet, also be careful what you do with it. You know, don't plug it into random things. Don't, you know, get phished and go onto random customer hotlines. Yeah. And also don't give away those keys or access to anybody. Like, take it very seriously. You wouldn't give your wallet to a stranger. You wouldn't let them hold your wallet. So, you know, be careful about that, I would say as well.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
You know, I have a student every week now I'll be honest, that gets hacked. And we should have you back on, Alex, for a whole nother episode about this. And they're like, oh, somebody hacked my MetaMask wallet. And I'm always like, I don't know if anybody hacks a MetaMask wallet. You know, the protocols are pretty strong. You know, it's all out there. And when you actually ask them more questions, they actually got socially engineered. So what happens is they replied to an email, they went to a Twitter account that looked like support, they passed their information on, and then they got their wallet drained. So it's usually a poor human decision that was made. Not always, but there usually was. So I would just say one thing about DeFi is you have to really own that security.
Absolutely.
And that's why this education is super important, you know.
Absolutely. Getting, you know, our family into it, like you said earlier, is really, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, it's great. I'm telling you, my mom, she's 78. She, like Robert Kiyosaki, she owned real estate assets her whole life. She literally lives on her real estate assets that she rents out to people. And she paid off the 30-year mortgage. Like, this is my mom, old school, right? She literally paid the 30th year of the payment for the properties. So she's comfortable with assets. When I set her stable coins, I'm telling you, Alex, I got her on MetaMask. Again, I haven't seen my mom since COVID, so I did this all on the phone. She got on MetaMask, and I sent her some Ethereum. I sent her some Chainlink because she gave birth to me. She'd get a little Chainlink, right? And then I sent her some stablecoin, and she said, so this is like $1? And I said, yeah, Mom, it's like $1. She's like, wow, that's really amazing. So, like, she got it right away. If you told my mom she gets 19.6% yield, she'd sell her apartments, right?
And I think that's the key point here today, Brian. It's like, today, I really feel like this is such valuable information because we have the very low risk, the lowest of all risks, still with asymmetrical returns, especially with infrastructure play that have corrected and still provide double-digit yields for some of these proof-of-stake platforms. And then again, single coin staking, which is less risky than AMM pools. and especially the good timing with that $1 billion fund, that Bitcoin reserve that they have to back in case of a black swan event. I feel like today, if I had to go through every single type of passive income form or opportunity, I think we've covered the most important.